Shawn Fain, who has kind of rocketed to really kind of labor stardom after the stand-up strike that the UAW led against the big three automakers led to record contracts that has led to significant amounts of organizing of non-union plants, including electric vehicles, around the country, really given a jolt to the labor movement in the United States that it hadn't had in a long time.
Raises up Tesla.
Yeah, exactly. Is now facing problems from Neil Barofsky, who is the monitor appointed by the Department of Justice to kind of root out corruption in the old UAW. Let's put up this, and we can back this up here. But UAW President Shawn Fain under investigation by federal watchdog, court filing reveals. So this filing was entered by Neil Barofsky, who is the monitor. So for people who don't know the backstory here, the only reason that Shawn Fain is president of the UAW is because in 2020, the Department of Justice reached a consent decree with a very corrupt United Auto Workers. Two of its presidents had been thrown in prison. Some auto executives had also been prosecuted. There was just an enormous amount of bribery and corruption involved in the old UAW. And part of the consent decree, which is supposed to last for 6 years, up till 2026, although it can be ended earlier if the kind of monitor says, like, all right, things are going in the right direction here. One of the things that they put in the consent decree was that the UAW would have direct elections. And that was a reform that union members had been fighting for a very long time. It was a true moment of the Department of Justice actually using its power for good. Like they actually did reform this union in a positive way. The result was Shawn Fain winning this election. Now, after Shawn Fain came into power, there were some kind of turf wars inside. And out of those turf wars, you now are seeing the elements of this investigation. Barofsky is claiming that Fain kind of improperly retaliated against a vice president who he fired because Fain has said publicly he didn't think that this vice president was doing a good enough job pushing the Stellantis organizing. That Stellantis was kind of walking all over the union workers there. And so he wanted somebody in there who was tougher. Meanwhile, he was also tangling with the secretary-treasurer, who he said was illegitimately holding back funds for organizing efforts that were important to his strategy. And so, from the perspective of the union, one person, one vote, they elected Shawn Fain. Shawn Fain wanted to implement a strategy. The secretary-treasurer was getting in the way of that strategy. And so, he used his authority as president to insist that they push ahead with that strategy. This is not there's no accusation here of any personal enrichment or any type of corruption. This is the Neil Barofsky, the monitor, kind of just getting in the middle of basically what is an internal struggle inside an organization, the kind of thing that happens at any organization, particularly one that's trying to be kind of revolutionized from within by somebody like Shawn Fain. Interestingly, also, Emily, the UAW has to pay for this monitor. So if you look at the UAW's public filings, I think they paid $5 million to, or more than $5 million to like big shoe law. What do you call them? White, whatever. Big law. Like big firms are making millions of dollars doing private work for this DOJ monitor. And so now the monitor is saying that they want something like 100,000 emails from Shawn Fain, and then he's only given 2,000 is what was in the filing. If they give over those 100,000, like they're going to end up spending millions and millions of their members' dues so that these lawyers can kind of go through these emails to try to find something that they can then go at them with. So that's what's going on here at the UAW.
The stupid grin on my face is because this is similar in a way. It's such a different case, but it reminds me a little bit of what's on the docket with the Chevron case that's about to be decided by the Supreme Court, which is EPA making a decision on its own that lobster fishermen off the coast of, I think it's Maine, have to pay these monitors to comply with the EPA's regulations. And the EPA sort of just made that decision without going through Congress or putting it in any legislation. I find it amusing because I do agree completely that when the DOJ is able to sort of get away with investigations that demand huge compliance resources and efforts disproportionate to the importance of the investigation, it's genuinely problematic. And in this case, I wonder, Ryan, I'm curious if there's a hair trigger, because the UAW's corruption before Fain, this sort of revolution, to use the word that you used, that revolution that he has sort of wrought inside of the UAW, the reason there has to be a revolution is because it was coming from a place that needed a revolution for the better. It was in the shadow of corruption, and that was obviously very damaging to the union movement. And I'm just curious, because I'm trying to wrap my head around why the Biden DOJ would bite on this. Is it that they're on a hair trigger? They're almost they think that maybe they're protecting the UAW from itself. Is it internal politics? People are, maybe Fain is controversial in ways privately with different people involved, different players. Like, is there any internal drama? Basically, explain this to me, like what the motivation from the Biden DOJ might be in this case.
So the key point here is Borofsky is a fully independent monitor, and so this is a situation where you get a monitor in place, like when you had Ken Starr, for instance, as the independent counsel under Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton couldn't do anything about Ken Starr. Like once that Ken Starr independent counsel situation was set up, that's what it was. Now, politically, he could have tried to just get rid of the special counsel, perhaps, but then he'd get impeached for that. Those are political issues. But there's no directive that the DOJ or the White House can give to that type of a special counsel. The monitor is a similar situation in which he's been set up as this independent watchdog. Borofsky was famously one of the kind of Wall Street watchdogs and angered a lot of people on Wall Street back then. So he was going after the bad guys then. Now he's set up.
He was the IG, right? After 2008.
Right, that's right.
David Sirota's podcast, I think it's called Meltdown. Borofsky factors very heavily in it. It's fantastic listen.
Yeah. I remember Borofsky from the reporting around the Meltdown at the time. And so at the time, he was independent. He's independent now. So the DOJ, so it's not clear what exactly the DOJ could do, if it wanted to. Like, what's going on? In other words, is there something going on between Borofsky and Shawn Fain, Borofsky and the UAW, and it's new. This is a new flare-up, and it's organizing behind the big three, record contract, and he's not making any allegations of corruption. So we need to do some more reporting to figure out what happened, like what's going on here, because clearly something happened. Shawn Fain is known as somebody with sharp elbows. That's for sure. Right. He's not somebody that's going to be pushed around. Borofsky too is not somebody that's going to be pushed around. So whatever happened between him and the UAW, you could imagine it escalating fairly quickly, just given the kind of personalities involved. But I think some more reporting is in order, and hopefully we'll be able to come back and figure out what it was that sparked this. Because according to Borofsky, it's not corruption. He's demanding 100,000 plus emails. Shawn Fain is saying that's crazy. Like, that's too much. Like, what? No. Like, you're bleeding this union for millions of dollars for these lawyers. And so unless they can figure something out. Now, the threat that Borofsky has is that the DOJ could take over the UAW. Like, that's within their authority under the consent decree. But politically, can you imagine them trying to get away with that? Like, the first major union to actually deliver huge gains for its workers is then going to be taken over by the Biden administration? That's insane to even contemplate. But is the
very
threat.
pro-labor Biden administration that's allied itself with Shawn Fain.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's a strange situation.
Yeah, right. Biden went to the picket line, first president in history to join a picket line when he spoke there with Shawn Fain.
I know you're used to labor stories not getting a lot of coverage in corporate media, but even so, I think this story has really been flying under the radar. There's been so little coverage. It sort of broke yesterday, but really no focus on it. And that seems wildly disproportionate to its importance, obviously given Fain's central role in this wave of the labor movement right now.
Yeah, and going forward, he has set the next contract expiration for 2028. And he's encouraging other unions around the country to also set their contracts to expire on the same date in 2028, working toward not a total general strike, but working toward a mass kind of strike coinciding on the same day in the next presidential cycle. So he's clearly calling his shot, and he's coming for the bosses in a major way, and. Is Borofsky? What is Borofsky doing here? It's an open question that we're gonna try to figure out.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.